Okay, welcome to another episode of the Bandwagon Sports Podcast. I'm Fayaz Ahmed, and today we're going to be talking about the Clippers versus the Spurs, Game 5. As many of you know, the Spurs beat the Clippers last night 108 to 107, taking a 3-2 commanding series lead. So, let's talk about the Spurs Clippers. The first thing is I want to say is, these are, two teams that are very good and very evenly matched. Separated probably by a razor's edge. The Clippers, they have the two best players in this series. I'd say as a whole, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, they've been amazing. They've brought it. They've been focused. But after those two, the Spurs have probably the best other players in this series. And I think definitely last night, we saw the Clippers lack of depth. They started out the first quarter strong. They had like a 14-point lead. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, they go to the bench. Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, they come in. A couple threes by Patty Mills, another three by Manu Ginobili, drives. Next thing you know, this 14-point lead has turned into a 2-point deficit. Also, the Clippers, have had to play Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, very hard, pedal to the metal. And, I think we saw it last night in the fourth quarter. I mean, we saw some frustration by Chris Paul. Blake Griffin was clearly gassed. I mean, I think you could see that in some of the turnovers. Some of his jump shots were a little flat. And as much as, a lot of us, maybe who don't like the hack of Jordan, or as much malignment Greg Popovich has gotten for, using this hacker Jordan literally any opportunity he can, just sending in guys to hack Jordan, to use up fouls. It's worked. Last night he went 7 for 16 from the line. He missed 9 free throws, and those 9 free throws were big in a 1-point win. I mean, you can't argue that it didn't work. There were some bad calls down the stretch. I felt that Blake Griffin did not travel. That was not a goaltend by Matt Barnes. There were a few other calls where I think a couple over behind the backs, by the Spurs over the Clippers. But the one thing, the NBA is, not every call is going to go your way, and the Clippers, have been notorious, for complaining to the refs and, whining about calls. And, last night, they didn't show their poise. I think you could tell by a little bit from their body language, the technical foul by CP3, which, I'm not sure if it was a technical foul. I'm not sure if he said anything to the ref or he just threw it back hard at the ref. But, they did not show their poise. And the Spurs were the opposite. I mean, they were poised. They worked through, their own probably lack of calls on their end, and they kept coming. And whether they're up, they're down, they ran their offense and executed it. And I mean, one thing about the Spurs is that their offense is an offense you have to defend for 24 seconds. It's not, they're the type of offense you defend them super hard, excellent crisp rotations for 20 seconds, and at that 23rd second, they're going to find that last open guy for a jumper. And I've been amazed that at the ripe age of 39, Tim Duncan is still bringing it. He's scoring in the post. He blocked critical block on Blake Griffin down the stretch, and even at age 39 in season 18, he's still their foundation. He's still, the identity of the Spurs. He's the guy that everything moves around and builds around. So Clippers are going to Game 6, down 3-2 on the road in a hostile environment in San Antonio. Is it over for them? Well, in the 2 wins for the Clippers, they've been the desperate team. Game 1 and Game 4, they came out very fast, sharp, aggressive, played many possessions like it was their last. And those 2 wins, Chris Paul was excellent. He went for 30 in each game. But the question, I have in this Game 6 is, can the Clippers get a third guy on offense to step up? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Austin Rivers continuing to make his dad proud? Is it going to be Matt Barnes hitting some threes? Besides, what he's done, I mean, he's been a human corpse, on offense, but is he going to step up, or is it going to be Jamal Crawford going, heat check mode? Who's it going to be? I mean, that's the thing for the Clippers. I mean, I think tomorrow they'll get out to a fast start. I'm sure, by the 6, 7, by the 5 minute mark in the first quarter, they'll have a 5, 6 point lead. And, can the Clippers sustain it? That's literally been the whole story for this whole series. And on the Spurs side, look, you're up 3-2, you're playing at home, you've been here many times before, and the Clippers haven't shown that they can beat you 2 straight times, and you've won 2 times on their home floor. So for the Spurs, I mean, what level of urgency are they going to have? Are they going to take their foot off the gas? I mean, the jugular vein is going to be there for them to cut, and it's just, are they going to go for it? So I think really the key for them is, is going to be Popovich, really motivating those guys and getting them to come out and play hard. And, even as well as they played in LA, I mean, if you're the Spurs, you don't want it to go 7 games. Anything can happen in Game 7. The Clippers have played a Game 7 before. Spurs have also played Game 7s before, but anything can happen in this type of game. The big thing for the Clippers is Doc Rivers. He has to make adjustments. As close as the games have been, they've come down to 1 or 2 possessions. And what he's done these past few games is when Greg Popovich goes to hack of Jordan, he cannot let DeAndre go to the line 5 straight times and hit like 2 out of 10 free throws, while the Spurs run off like 6 points and cut the Clippers lead, or, build on their lead. If Pop goes to that, then DeAndre Jordan has to come out. Whether it's wasting a timeout, taking a foul, they have to get him out and put Big Baby in. The hack of Jordan ruins their flow. When the Clippers are going, they're out and running, using their athleticism to wear down the Spurs. And then when Popovich goes to the hack of Jordan, you can see it in their eyes. You can see the frustration, just the annoyance with Chris Paul. And as much as Doc Rivers has downplayed it in this series, it's hurt him big time. I mean, they've lost 2 games, 1 possession games, which came down to literally a point, which could have been a DeAndre Jordan made free throw. Substitute an 0 for 2 DeAndre Jordan with the Chris Paul layup, the series could be over actually by now. And so all this being said, I know a lot of pundits out there are, picking the Spurs to close out the series tomorrow night. But I like the Clippers in Game 6. I think they're going to come out as the more desperate team and steal one on the road and force a Game 7. Prevailing issue in this whole series has been the Clippers' lack of depth. Going into this series, I heard all about their lack of depth, and can the Clippers starters, play well enough to, play enough to make up for their lack of bench. And after watching the Clippers for 5 games, I've been surprised how bad it is. I mean, outside of Blake, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and JJ Redick, there's so many problems with this roster. Number 1, no athletic wing. They have no athletic 6'7", 6'8" guy that can go out, get the ball, just pump fake, go to the rim, attack, a guy that can get out and run on the break, hit threes consistently. I mean, Matt Barnes, he's a nice player, but at this point in his career, he's like a subpar 3-and-D guy. They had that type of player in Jared Dudley, who last year was not healthy, and maybe if they had sent him to the right doctors, got his knee a little healthier, he could have helped. And what really hurts them is they traded away Jared Dudley as well as a first-round pick, which could have helped them with their rosters, their depth in their roster. They had Jordan Hamilton, and I think he could have helped in this series, but unfortunately, I believe he hurt his knee. And I think, while he's not like on the level of like a Jared Dudley or He's not a game breaker. I think, he's a guy that kind of fits that mold of what I was talking about. He's an athletic guy. He can get in the lane, make the defense collapse on him, maybe get it out to a shooter, and he can run. He's athletic. He's not a great player, but yeah, I think he definitely could have made a difference, had he been healthy. And their backup bigs are atrocious. I love Big Baby Davis. I think he's done a solid job for them, backing up Blake Griffin. But outside of that, Spencer Hawes hasn't made it off the bench in this series, and they don't have really anybody else that can kind of come in and hold down the fort, on in the paint. When Blake and DeAndre go out. And it's going to be interesting for them this summer. They have no first round pick. I'm not familiar with their cap situation, but I'm pretty sure they don't have a lot of space to go out and get anybody. Um, a guy I would have liked to see them have kept was Nate Robinson. I think he could have helped with their depth. And Nate, I feel, is one of those kind of players. He's good enough where he can win you a game. In the playoffs. I mean, he can just get hot, maybe win you a quarter even. Um, as a coach, I think the Clippers, with if Vinny Del Negro was the coach, they would not be in the series the way they have been with Doc Rivers. So definitely, I think Doc, as a coach, has done a good job, but as an executive, he's failed. He's failed to surround his big three of Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin with depth and talent that can really take the pressure off. He's wearing two hats as team president and coach, but he's having a hard time keeping both on at the same time. It'll be interesting to see this summer. I mean, I think I was listening to Mason and Ireland on ESPN LA, and one thing they were saying is that why not remain as the team president, but hire a general manager? I think that would be a great idea. I think he can obviously work together, with the general manager to on personnel decisions. We've seen this work well in Seattle with Pete Carroll and John Idzik, and I think that's John Idzik. I can't remember the general manager's name. It's worked well with R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich, Pat Riley, and their general manager has worked. I think this is something they should look into. There are a lot of talented players all over the world, and that's something a general manager does. In the off season, during the season, goes out, scouts players, tries to find hidden gems. And with Doc being the coach, I'm not sure what he does in his off season. I know he was based in Orlando, but I think now he's in LA. I don't know how much scouting he does, as well as the college front too. If the Clippers lose this series, there's been talk. What should they do? They have. There are some questions about this roster. Specifically also DeAndre Jordan, who's going to be a free agent, as well as their depth. A lot of pundits and the media have called for a complete overhaul of this roster, but I wouldn't go that far. I mean, as much as we've talked about their depth issues, they won 56 games, and if not for a few bounces of the ball, they could be leading the series. I don't think this roster needs a complete overhaul. However, it definitely needs some tweaking. I think continuity is important in the NBA. I think there's something to be said for teams that grow together through the ups and downs and come out better for it. We've seen it with the Spurs. I feel the Warriors, from what they've done the past, 2 to 3 years under Mark Jackson, getting to the playoffs, the disappointments. We've seen them grow and gel, and what it's transpired into this year. Um, I think after 4 seasons, they've been through a lot. They're battle tested, and they've shown they can contend. I think you just have to continue to build on that. The bench is something that needs to be addressed, and I think the Clippers, need to look at Chris Paul. He's going to be 30, and uh, really come up with a plan for his long-term health. He hasn't really had any health issues this year, but I think it's going to be important for them to get a backup point guard that can take some of the pressure off of him when he's out of the game. And I would kind of start to monitor his minutes a little bit. I would try to cut it down by 2 to 3 minutes. Uh, this year he was, I'm going to pull it up right now, minutes wise. Let's see, this year. This year he was at about 35 minutes, which is not bad. If if they can trim that down to like 33, 32 minutes, I think it would go a long way. Save him up a little bit, and prevent some of that wear and tear on him, because he's their franchise guy. Him and Blake Griffin, going forward, are the cornerstones. And well, I don't think you get rid of either of those cornerstones unless you're getting like Kevin Durant or LeBron James, which I'm not sure what happened. To me, the biggest question mark for this team is, what do you do with DeAndre Jordan, who's going to be a free agent this summer? I think he just coming off a 4-year, $40 million contract, and given his performance the past 2 seasons, he's definitely going to get paid. I like the chemistry between Blake and DeAndre. I mean, obviously, we know they're friends off the court, but they really feed off each other on the court. It's really cool to see the Blake and DeAndre alley oops. They both have each other's back on the court on defense and on offense. DeAndre's been great for them on the defensive end. He's rebounded, kept teams to one shot. I mean, just his size alone alters so many shots, for the Clippers. But is he a guy that's worth 100 million, 120 million, whatever his max contract number will be? No. I can't. I don't believe you pay a guy $100 million when he only plays one side of the ball. Like, he's excellent defensively, but on offense, he's very limited outside an alley oop or a point blank dunk. I think if you're the Clippers, maybe you go to him, a 5-year, $55-60 million contract, but you have to tread carefully. If you max out on DeAndre Jordan, then you're locking into a core of Chris Paul, Blake, and DeAndre, which I believe is formidable, but I'm not sure how much room you'd have left after that to really upgrade the roster. And look, we saw that with Daryl Morey and Chandler Parsons this summer. Mark Cuban came with a 3-year, $45 million contract with like full trade escalators, and signed Chandler Parsons to an offer sheet, and really put a big decision in Daryl Morey's hands. And Daryl Morey said that the reason he did not match was that had he matched that contract, then the Rockets would really have been locked into a big three of Harden, Dwight, and Parsons, which would have decreased their flexibility to go out and get another guy. And we saw by not matching that offer, they were able to get Josh Smith, off the waivers and trade for Corey Brewer, sign Trevor Ariza, sign Kostas Papanikolaou. And that's the biggest thing in the NBA today. You need to have flexibility to upgrade your roster year in and year out. It's not the old days. It's not like the NBA in the 90s or 80s where you have like your core 9 guys and that's it for the next 5 years. In today's NBA, you have to be able to, mold your roster, adjust your roster to, beat certain teams in the playoffs, and they have to. And by giving Blake DeAndre that contract, I think they would be definitely limiting themselves in flexibility. I think a good alternative would be Tyson Chandler for say $9-10 million. He's a little older, but he's still effective on defense. He can rebound, he can anchor the paint, and he can also hit free throws. Plus, he's from Compton, so it'd be a homecoming for Tyson Chandler. I think that's something they need to look into. From the Spurs perspective, assuming like they hold on and win this series in 6 or 7 games, some questions have been asked is how much will this series take out of them? I think it'll take a little bit out of them. I think physically a little bit, mentally, obviously, grinding it out at 7 games against the Clippers. But the Spurs have been there so many times, been there, done that. That it's just another feather in the cap, or whatever you want to say. Also, I think their depth really helps them, because it's not like any one guy in this series has had to overextend himself. As dinged up as Tony Parker is, when he has not been able to go, Popovich pulls him and throws in Patty Mills, who's done a great job for them, hitting big shots and just really playing well within their system. But looking ahead, if they hold on here and beat my Rockets in the second round, that would lead to a potential matchup with the Warriors, who I think will be in the Western Conference Finals. One thing is against the Clippers, they've been able to capitalize on mental mistakes by the Clippers, inability to shoot free throws, but that's not something that's going to be there with the Warriors. The Warriors under Steve Kerr, they're a smart, disciplined team, and a lot of their guys can hit free throws. So it'll be interesting to see when the Spurs go up against a team like the Warriors, where they can't employ a lot of the tricks and gimmicks they use against the Clippers and teams of the like. So, final prediction on the series, I think the Clippers. I really believe the Clippers will win Game 6. Again, I think they'll come out desperate and they're going to play hard and do everything they can to force a Game 7. And the winner of that, I'm about to grab a quarter off my dining table, make the Clippers tails and Spurs head, and flip it, and see what happens. And that's what I'll go with as my winner. I'm gonna flip a coin and see. So, thanks for listening, guys. You can catch my podcast on bwaxsports.blogspot.com. You can catch us on Twitter at bwaxsports. And until next time, take care.